This is Kitten Features, and you're listening to ShowX Live with Ken in a student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wayne in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to ShowX on VtWProductions.com. You're listening live at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on this Sunday, the 25th, I believe it is already, of... Oh, gosh, we're still in August of 2019.
We are still in August.
Well, no, I am tracking because it's kind of this thing of, like, I'm thinking of all the things I have coming up that are happening in the near future here, because I am on my way this coming week, where I will be heading off to Atlanta for my yearly access to DragonCon.
Oh, jeez.
And I have been struggling to get everything I can done for it because I have a lot to still do. And so that is part of my challenge that I'm kind of like, what all is going on? But I think I will manage it. As
Of course you will, sir. You are the master of doing all the things that are cons.
I try to do everything. I've been told by many people in the past, like, man, you need to slow down. Stop trying to finish all the things. But for me, that is, I don't know. It's my nature. It's my way of being. And so I don't know if I know another way. It is. But yeah, so welcome to the show, everybody. Sorry that Ken and I may be acting a little distracted at the moment. We may or may not be in the middle of a fairly aggressive game of League of Legends right now.
So is it the best time to tell you that I've disconnected, by the way?
What? No. Okay,
yeah,
so Ken will be fine.
I'm here, guys. Don't worry about me. I feel like every time I play games with you, for some reason, I always get disconnected. It's just the internets hate me. Apparently, having friends.
It's like, what are you trying to accomplish, Ken? You should know better.
Yeah, right. So how are things, Mr. Wayne? What have you been up to?
Well, let's see, as we go ahead and kick things off with a little bit here of
Dysfunctional Deviations.
What have I been up to? I have been busy, like I said, getting ready for con. Lot going on with that. But hopefully I'll get it managed. I will let's see, trying to think. So I have a lot of costuming stuff that I'll talk about here in the Geek Cred section.
I could never have guessed that one.
What? But beyond that, let's see, I've been doing going-aways and such like that for friends, trying to accept that unfortunately people are leaving me, as tends to happen in the kind of profession work I do as well. In this case, it's more that I have people who are going on to other adventures, and I wish I could say more about this one in particular, because gal I knew back in school, or not school, sorry, I knew her when she was first going to school for finance and stuff like that, but she worked with me while she was in the military as an officer, and I got to see as she kind of moved on in life to do other things. But one of the coolest things that she did is, well, not the coolest thing she did, one of the things she's involved with right now is her significant other, her man, took a job out west, and so she is following him for that endeavor. And it happens to be, and this is where I wish I could say more to it, he is going to be working for, or is working for now, SpaceX.
Oh, wow, that's neat.
Yes, like extremely, not just neat, but freaking cool.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that we talked about a little bit at the going away and stuff like that, because he was in town for it, since he's already living out essentially in LA doing all this. But I was just kind of like, man, I wish I could talk more to you and get details and all of the things, because how cool is that?
Yeah, well, that's maybe somebody that might be interested in doing an interview one day once they get a grips with the job and know what they can and can't talk about. That kind of thing.
And that was the problem, is I think they are pretty much locked down under the idea that they have they have a group of people who are there advertising social media, things like that. And so, because I kind of hinted at it, I was saying, this is really cool. We just spent an evening talking all kinds of science and space and things like that in general. And so that was super neat. And then I had to kind of just say, well, this would be awesome if it was on my show. And he was kind of like, nope, I can talk to you freely here, but sure as heck cannot go on air.
That's all you're getting.
And I tried to talk about a little bit of how, well, I mean, I understand this. My co-host and I are the same way, because we both have had things where we can't really talk about what it is we're involved in, but, you know, it's like, well, I still want to share, or to some degree, like, I can talk, what do I want to say, subject matter, but nothing detailed.
Yeah.
And so I did.
Well, that's the thing. The stuff that I used to not be able to talk about and still can't is incredibly dull anyway. So I was never really that fussed about it. In fact, it was probably a good thing I couldn't talk about it. So
Well,
I wouldn't
and I-
even be tempted to tell you guys the dreary dullness that was my daily life.
And I joke about some of those things with it in the same way, but yeah, that, you know, as exciting as people might imagine my job and life and stuff like that are, I was like, no, it's really not, guys. It's really not. So,
Yeah, doing lots of boring work, whether it's for a top secret project or not, doesn't make it more exciting. It's still lots of boring work, you know?
exactly. And so that was one where it was still like, it was fun to talk to him. It was a really neat, just kind of like interaction, but at the same time, I can't do anything else. So it's like, dang it. You know, I was teased.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful conversation though, and we were hanging out at a brewery doing it and such, so that was nice. And unfortunately, Ken, we lost our match without you there to tank for us.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, that was really annoying because that's 2 times in the past week I've had disconnections. It must be League of Legends, by the way. It seems to always be League that does it. I'm playing and then because I actually disconnected from Skype for about 10 seconds during that time as well. So it must be every time I play League, it seems to kill my net for some reason. I don't know.
That's no bueno, but yes. All right, so now nice thing is I can officially close out of that and open up the bandwidches and focus on you guys and what's been going on this week. You know, I never want to leave a team hanging up, and we were trying to get it done in time, but it took longer to start than we had hoped. So anyhow, back to the show. So, hey, everybody. Let's see. What else am I doing? Because unfortunately, as I'm getting ready for things, I've been so busy that I haven't taken time to get ready for the show today specifically, other than to get things going. Let's see. Yes, Hando, thank you for understanding. But what did I have in here? That's not geeky. Yeah, see, that's geek. After the show today, I will say that I'll have to run away faster than normal. Well, not faster than normal. I won't be able to game, and that's because as I'm finishing up multiple projects, as people on video can see already, but I will be going to go to an early dinner kind of thing at a friend's house, mediator between myself and a gal whose wedding I'll be shooting the beginning of October. And so we're going to go to finalize details and figure out what's going on with that to get that all set up and done. So I have to run to a meeting after the show. I'll have a little bit of time, but I'll have to be prepping for things for that. So getting ready for a wedding. Like I said, getting ready for Dragon Con this coming week, so I've been blitzing on some costuming and such. Let's see, what other things have I been doing? I want to say, other than still binging various shows I have, did I finish any more? I finished all the series I was actually after, and the one I've been watching right now is another Netflix show. This one is Woo Assassins. And
all right.
I don't know if that's one that anyone is aware of, has seen, stuff like that, but it's the one I've been doing the most recently. And that one's been entertaining. It's different than I expected. Another made or Netflix brought show, so the nice thing about that is it means it's got very high quality when it comes to the video and things like that. Dolby Atmos, 4K, all those good things. But it's one where it takes place in San Francisco, and it's kind of a throwback to old-fashioned kung fu movies in a way, where it talks about the main character in it being someone who is just a chef or a cook, but he gets imbued with the power of 1,000 monks, and is fighting off this growing evil of people that have gained power of the elements over coming together. So even though it's in a modern setting, it is still
Avatar.
So and you got to think Avatar and all those things are basically all based on old Chinese things like the Legend of the Monkey King and stuff like that. Even things that have gone out into Dragon Ball, other things, all these old stories. But yes, some of those similar things. Although him not being so much the Avatar as being the person who can live through getting hit by those elements, trains to avoid being burned by fire or drowned by water or things like that, where his only real ability seems to be fighting. So interesting, but I'm playing around with that one right now. I've also been watching a show. oh, what's it called? Hyper something. There's a car show out there on Netflix right now that is a competitive racing show. And it's kind of like a reality show or one where they built a track out in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to have to find the name of this one because it's been, I will say, mildly entertaining for me. Being a car guy, thank you, Earthweaver, got it, Hyperdrive, before I had to go into it. Hyperdrive, a show where they set up a course that has all these crazy obstacles in it. And in a way that it's people driving their own real cars and it's race car drivers from around the world. Primarily it's consisting of people that are drifters, so professional drifters or some level of drifting. Actually, I don't know if any of them are truly professional. They're all they've all raced, and a lot of them have done a lot of different things like that, but I don't think any of them you'd be considered professionals where they're supported by major teams or anything like that, because they all have to bring their own cars. And in the competition, they go through various kind of things, and this, again, real cars, real world, where they're racing for time, and in it they have obstacles and things they have to accomplish in their cars. Some of which are sliding and hitting targets with their car that are basically signposts that are able to rotate when they're hit. And I feel like because they're trying not to damage the cars, they have these grid of things that whenever they hit, they pop out. I'm thinking they're big rubber balls or something like that, because they hit it with the back of the car and you see these balls or something kind of bounce out of these things. But they have to hit it with the back half of their car. So in order to do that, they basically have to slide into them and not hit it with the front, or they get a penalty for time. And then they change up the courses where they have everything from having to, let's see, where are some of the ones? One of the big ones is doing a J-turn, coming backward. I forget what it's officially called, but they have to stop, like hit a target from the front, which starts the time for it, and then back up between a set of pylons that have a slightly opening section in the middle, and then hit the e-brake or something real fast to flip the front of the car around and continue going forward the same direction. So they have a lot of technical kind of things that they have to do as drivers that I'm just super impressed with. And the nice thing is people bring in their own cars. You have a big variety of the kind of cars they're driving. So not everything is a tweaked out full race car type thing. Some of them are basically street cars. There's a gal in there from Texas, I believe, or somewhere, who's racing essentially a bone stock 350Z. That just happens to have graphics on it. So it's only pushing some of the range of 280-ish horsepower compared to some people that are racing in professional built race cars that are pushing 800 horsepower. And a gentleman that is a part of a company he's owns, it wasn't a construction company, but something like that. I forget what, was driving a Lamborghini Aventador. So essentially a $200-something thousand car against people who are driving like $15,000, $20,000 cars. And so it's really neat because for me, it is kind of the most true, let's focus on the skill of the people driving, where the machine doesn't do it all for you. There's a gentleman from Japan who's a drift king who's in they call him the Drift Sensei, and I don't know what kind of car it is. It's an Acura or something, but really like old school, low end, not a ton of power, and has things like it doesn't have, I think it doesn't even have an emergency brake. He's doing all of his drifting and kick turns based off regular brakes and acceleration and popping gears and stuff like that, which truly takes technical skill. And so it's just been really fun to watch these kind of things going back and forth. And you would think that some of these top powered cars would have all the advantage. But one of the things they had as an early, one of the things they have as a equalizer was a challenge. What's it called? Essentially, it's a pool full of water that is enough that as you accelerate through it, it'll throw water all into the front of the car, including up into the engine compartment from underneath. And on it, they have a track a layout where you have to drive in a S kind of back and forth through this big pool, where there's only about a 9-foot wide path, and everything over that falls into the pool. And so if you don't stay on the path, you drop in the water. And the way they navigate is they have little reflectors sticking up into the water, out of the water, so you can see them with your lights. And so then the challenge for the people racing it is how fast can they navigate it without drowning out their engine or swamping their visibility so that they can't see. Yet do they go so slow that it's safe and lose a bunch of time? And that one's a lot of fun because there are people in some of these professional race cars that they're not as sealed against the elements as regular everyday cars that have to survive in everyday weather. And so it was funny to see how the nearly stock cars had no problem with that obstacle, but some of the race cars were bogging out and just dying, and they had to do things like one guy actually got through it barely after he bogged out his car in the middle and had to restart it. and another gal. I wish she had done better. A gal from South Africa had the same problem where she hit it too hard, and then towards the next obstacle it just stalled, and she had to keep trying to restart it, and before she could finish the course, it actually killed her engine and killed the car.
Oh, jeez.
But it's such a crazy but dramatic kind of thing to watch these people from various different lives, different skill levels, all navigate these obstacles. And me being a car guy, it's pretty exciting. And at the same time, I respect the heck out of most of these obstacles. I'm like, nope, I don't even have an inkling of the dream that I could ever perform the techniques these people are doing. Like, I look and it's like, nope, I do not know how to drift a vehicle in a controlled way like that to slap the back ends of these things. Or various things like the J-turn I might be able to force, but not as clean as some of these guys were able to. And not everybody does. There's a lot of people that got eliminated because they couldn't get through some of the different obstacles. But that's been a fun show for me to watch on Netflix lately. Let's see. I told everyone, I think, and I might have mentioned last time, I finished The Boys, which that was exciting and good times. I think those are the main ones I wanted to bring up like that. The only other one I had that I recently went because I was trying to... I've talked about before when I actually saw it in the theater, but I finally went out and invested because I want to support it that much. I really want a part 2 made. Is I went and purchased Alita Battleangel and went and got like the 4K Blu-ray Max edition of it because I so loved that movie. And from it being a representation where even my cousin enjoyed it because it was just a good solid sci-fi flick, but coming from old anime in the early 90s, it was such a great adaptation of all of that. So good, so good. Anyhow, so that's pretty much what I have that hasn't been geek this week. How about yourself, Ken?
Well, I've got a couple things. First of all, shout out to my mother, because it's her birthday tomorrow, and also shout out to my father-in-law, because it's his birthday today. So happy birthday to both of them.
Ah, salut. That's outstanding.
Yeah, it's neat. So I'm going to take my mum out for lunch tomorrow in an Italian place in town. She's coming through to visit, and that'll be nice because it's a bank holiday here in the UK. So pretty much everybody's on holiday apart from, of course, me and my fellow researchers. Because what's a holiday? I don't know what that is.
Right.
So she's coming through for lunch, and I'm going to take a couple hours off, but because she can travel and such, and I can't. So on Monday I had a poker night.
Nice.
With a bunch of friends. That was good fun. I came third place out of 6. But it was me and all the fellow groomsmen and the groom coming up for Graham's wedding.
Hey! That's so cool.
Yeah, so we had a bit of a chat, and he was so kind. He got I should have had it next to me. It's downstairs, but I have he gave us all these little crafted wooden boxes with our names on them, and it says our position as either groomsman or best man, and of course I was best man, so I had Ken best man, and it was properly engraved, and he stuffed it with some hay. A bunch of photos that he tried to put the most embarrassing photo he could find of each of us. He tried to put gifts from Canada because he just got back from Canada, and he also got some stuff that's unique to us, like our favorite drink and stuff in each one. It was really, really kind, and I was blown away by how much thought went into each one. I was like, God damn, I am proud to be this guy's best man. It was really nice.
No, Graham is great people, and so I am not surprised in the least by that.
He's one of the most loyal dudes I know. He'll go the ends of the world for his friends. He's really sweet. So we discussed how we're going to do the logistics of doing a stag night. Since I'm going to be in the US soon. So that's a thing. So yeah, we had to think about that, and we've basically decided that since I'll be back at least once a year, what we'll do is I'll aim to be back this coming summer, like a year's time, and we'll do the stag night then.
Okay.
A year early, because that way we can properly travel, and it's cheaper for all of us, not have to worry about having the wedding and everything else all in the same time as the stag, and it's cheaper for Graham and so on as well. So that's good. So that was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed that. The rest of the week is mostly work related, but yesterday myself and Kitten Features went canoeing on Loch Ard.
Nice.
So we've done this before a couple of years ago, and we had such good memories of it. We just wanted to go out again. And yeah, it was just as beautiful. It's been rainy and sad here for the past few weeks.
Aww.
It's not been summery at all. But yesterday the sun came out and in its full glory, and it wasn't too hot. It was a little bit overcast, but it was still quite sunny. And we just lazed about on this boat for 3 hours, just going up and down Loch Ard, and eating lots of snacks and and yeah, just enjoying ourselves. I didn't bring my camera. I just because one of us we're going to be in a canoe. I wasn't going to trust that. But also, I just wanted to try and enjoy it. Today I took that sort of mindset a little bit further. We went up to a nearby reservoir with the pups, and basically this reservoir is shaped like a circle, except there's an island kind of at the southwest end that's just connected to the land with a little pathway. The problem is, all the approaches to this reservoir are from the north, and it's a very, very wide reservoir. So you go to the north, and you're in the top middle of it, and you still have to go around, circle.
No matter what, if you want to get there, you have to circumvent or navigate the reservoir itself.
And it's like it's a really big reservoir, so it's a couple of miles around it, right? And so we decided to go through what we thought was a shortcut. There was no paths or anything. So this was today. We went through some ferns, and we're like, this is fine. We started going down this hill, and Kitten was freaking out a little bit because she obviously being from the US, you don't want to, if you're traipsing through thick brush, foot first in little sandals, you think there's going to be spiders and snakes everywhere. What am I doing? I'm asking for death. In Scotland, there's nothing of the sort. There are adders, but they're very minorly venomous, and two, most people have never seen one. They're extremely rare, near extinct, right? So you're completely safe. So us and the pups are traipsing through this. We end up, like, after doing this kind of steep hill of brush, we get to the bottom of it, and we sort of think, okay, maybe it's either through that really dense forest, and we try to go through it a little bit, but we get all like cut up, and I've got cuts all over my body from the branches. We're like, okay, let's go into the sort of swampy looking area. I'm sure it's not that bad. We ended up going like deep, like knee deep into this boggy land. We thankfully managed to save our shoes. The pups were, they have 4 paws and they're a lot lighter, so they were sort of just hopping along, no problem. But we were like,
slogging through it.
We fell over a bunch of times, and we had all this picnic stuff with us and blankets and water for the dogs, and the sun came out to the extreme, like this, the hottest day I've seen in about 2 months. It was 27, 28 degrees Celsius. Let me just do a quick thing, so now everybody who's listening needs to do that, which is 81 degrees Fahrenheit or so.
Okay.
Not the craziest hottest in the world, but hot for here. And I don't know if you noticed, but I am shiny and pink all over. I am severely burned, actually. It doesn't show nearly as bad on camera. And yeah, so we finally get to this bloody island, and we chill out for a couple of hours, and it's really nice, and we're getting burned, and we've got some videos actually. We threw like Brutus's his ball. It's basically this plastic ball. The problem is Brutus destroys every toy we get him within like a minute. He has the most vicious jaws. He's like the sweetest, nicest, kindest dog I've ever met. He would never hurt a soul. Even when he's extremely excited, his idea of biting is like, like absolutely nothing, right? So he's incredibly sweet, but because he destroys all his toys, we got this big plastic ball that's just big enough so that he can't put his jaws on it.
Okay.
And so what he does, he tries to bite it, and it moves forward, and he finds this to be incredibly fun.
Gotcha.
So it also floats. So we threw this into the loch, and he bounds after it, and he just kept following it because he'd get close to it, bite it, push it forward. Yep. Eventually we were like, okay, buddy, leave it be. It'll come back to shore. You need to come back, and he's so obsessed with toys. It was quite hard to convince him to come back. But we had a great time. So towards the end of that, we were like, okay, we're pretty tired from sitting in the sun. We better head back. We can't go the way we came because of the mud flats, right? We might lose everything, our shoes or whatever. And never mind the fact we just cleaned ourselves in the loch, so we don't want to go get all muddy again. So we were like, oh, well, there's a rocky edge. There's no beach. There's it's like these big rocks. They're some are big, some are not big. They're around the loch. And we're like, oh, we'll just go across them. And the first 5 minutes of this is fine. But eventually we realized that the rocks are actually starting to split apart. I don't know the process of why. Somebody who's good at geography would understand why, or geology. But the rocks are all splintering, and they're clearly got big, deep cracks through them.
And some sharp edges and things like that, I would assume.
Yeah, but not so bad. Because it's near the water, I'm guessing it soothes the edges a little bit. So it wasn't too bad. And it was fine. We did this for about 25 minutes, just bounding over rocks. Like these, I'm not saying like there's like rocks in the ground. I'm saying there's no ground, only rocks, right? Like we were just jumping from rock to rock. And the dogs were, for the most part, completely fine. Tank was bounding over them, having the best time. He thought he was being a scout and he was loving it. But Brutus was kind of trailing behind us, trying to very carefully take his steps. And it was the saddest thing because at one point he was just too nervous. He got one of his paws stuck and he tried to yank it out. And he must have twisted it or something. And he made the saddest yelping noise for about 10 seconds, just like... And we both just dropped our stuff and ran back to him like, oh, it's okay. And we got, after that, we sort of went back to the forest and trailed through there, even though it was very sharp. But it was better for the dogs, so we didn't mind getting cut as long as they were okay. And eventually we made it back. But oh my God, we spent about 6 hours there, only 2 of which was actually spent relaxing. So it was not the most relaxing day, even though we thought it would be.
You went on an adventure today.
We really did. I officially received an offer for my job this week. So the one that I mentioned, I got it in writing. So I've not signed it yet because I've renegotiated the starting date because it would overlap my current job, and that's not acceptable. So they said that's fine. They just need to rewrite the contract. So I should be starting on the 8th of November. So I'll come through late October.
Okay.
2 things related to that. First of all, I was thinking of what car to get in Michigan because it's going to be super cold in the winter, right? So I'm thinking maybe with something with 4x4 drive or at least winter tires, right? It seems like that's a must.
Yeah, normally
and good heating system.
Normally, what you'll do is if you'll either get something with all-wheel drive that is a decent everyday car kind of thing. It is where my Ford Escape is to me a wonderful mid-range because it's basically one of these smaller crossover type SUVs, and so big enough to carry 5 people as necessary and kit behind in the boot, as well as like for you if you have the dogs, things like that, something like that, a decent enough size. And there's lots of cars that fall in that range that might be perfect for you. Yet it's not so big as to be a full-on truck or something like that, because I know you're not used to having big vehicles. As well as like my Escape, at least, and this is just personal experience, has gotten me through the winter without a single moment of concern. Like, it has been phenomenal for me. And that's where I say a lot of these kind of little crossover all-wheel drive cars are probably a good thing to look at. And if you don't need much power, go get a Honda Pilot or something like that, or a little like RAV4, whatever you're after, would be my primary recommendation.
I looked around at the prices of stuff that's it'll need to be. That's the thing. I'm a bit concerned about how my credit's going to work across there because how transferable is credit? Does the debt that I owe in the UK translate into the US? Will they know about it? If it does, it's actually a good thing because it shows that I've you
have an established rating. Yeah.
I think what I might have to do is like if I'm trying to like take a car out and pay it monthly sort of thing. I'm probably gonna have to get a notice from my work saying, this person is actually employed. They can probably pay it or something, right? Maybe that's the best I can do. I don't know. Maybe I can take a loan out or something. I don't know.
You will probably want something that shows that you are employed. Yes. Yeah. And what you're doing with that. This is actually something that we can probably chat about a bit. I have, what do I want to say, friends in the industry kind of thing, or people that have done similar kind of transfers and things. And so that might be a way to talk through like what it takes to do that. And so any advice would be very much welcome because it's completely new to me. I suppose I talk to my in-laws as well because they'll know quite a lot about transferring back and forth. Cool. So I've been thinking about that, and basically I'm going to go for something that's super cheap that I'm only planning to keep for 3 years, right? So something that I can pay off over the 3 years, and ideally at the very end just sell back or something. The other thing is you're talking about this. You mentioned a Lamborghini, was it? You said the $200,000 Lamborghini. Yeah. I was thinking about the ethics of this because it's something me and Kitten have always found a little distasteful. Is on one hand, we all dream of having a super fancy car. We who doesn't want a nice Lamborghini and who doesn't want a nice, I don't know, Jag or whatever. But at the same time, every time I see something like that, in fact, today I saw a beautiful Mercedes. It was a really gorgeous supercar. It was really nice. And I saw it and I thought to myself, that would feed thousands of people who are starving, right? I really, I don't mind some luxury. I mean, we should all enjoy ourselves, but I think there is extravagances that are a bit extreme. I mean, I usually look at like footballers' salary and stuff, but yeah, the highest, most highly paid positions, and you have these fantastic cars. It just kind of hurts to see. I think there's just a lot better ways to spend your money. That doesn't bother me at all because people who own vehicles like that, for the most part, or the lavish houses and various things like that, usually have so much money that for the percentage of what they have, that's a minor thing. And honestly, if you don't have a scale of things to work towards and to have nicer luxuries in life, why bother? Why make anything fancy? Why make anything nice? Why would you ever push the industry? Why would Tesla have ever made the original Roadster that now leads to prolific Model 3s that everyone can buy for under $50,000 and start changing the world? It is okay for people to have those extremes, to allow people to innovate, to push, to drive, to do things like that. Because if you didn't go for those levels and allow people to have differences, there's no drive. Why bother? Why try for anything new or different or better? And it would just be this. We might as well be communism at that point.
Well, that's exactly.
Which means, I don't know, every example I've seen of that trying to work, not good. But
I'm thinking more socialism than communism. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But I know I would get more sad. I don't think I could drive something like that without feeling horrific about myself. I would. I know that they're.
I couldn't. Like, heartbeat.
I don't know. I could just imagine driving past somebody homeless and them looking at the car and just thinking to themselves, man, 1% of that would feed me for a month, 2 months, 3 months.
So, but here's the thing. You're also assuming that the person who's done that is not doing anything else charitable or something good with
It's not about
money.
that. It's not about that, though. It's about
my thing is,
you can do,
but you can do both, right? Maybe at what point do you say that you now can't feel good about the things you've done unless you give away the majority of everything you've ever earned? And I mean, what you're saying, this is your own moral challenge, right? And for each person, they have to define it for themselves.
Absolutely.
But for me, it's one of those.
It's the same thing when you look at people who eat meat, right? In the end, everybody who eats food has a line somewhere of their ethical boundary. For vegetarians, it means nothingness an animal. For pescatarians, it's like, okay, we'll allow we don't really count them as animals, right? And then you go up and up and up. In the UK, we don't eat horse. We see horses as something that's like something to be owned.
There's horse in the UK.
Ride and oh, not anymore. Oh,
when did that change? Because when I went to Leeds the one time I did, and it's been years. It's been, a little less than a decade. But when I went over there, one of the things I got on my meat platter was horse, and I was sad because I didn't try it.
It's still sold. I mean, it's not legal or anything, but it's culturally very much disliked. Same as, to an extent, rabbit. But we still eat rabbit.
What?
A bit
Rabbit's
more.
good.
But what happened was, I think it was about 2010 or something like that. Lots of the supermarkets were selling sort of like mince and selling it as pork or something.
Okay.
And it was like frozen mince, but they didn't specify what meat it was in the packaging. And it turns out that a large portion of it was horse from France, because in France they do that. They have factories which butcher large amounts of horses at a time. We don't do that here. So people, when they realized, were disgusted. They were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I've eaten horse." It's like finding out that you eat dog to some people, right? Because they see it as like their pets. And so the point is, people draw their line.
Oh, absolutely, right? Yes.
And so do countries, and so do populaces. It's not just individual people; it's also groupings of people. And I think that the U.S. in particular I think more people would be willing to spend more on a fancy car than they would here, for example. I think people would see it as more of a luxury here, and they're more like seeing a Lambo or seeing a Jag are particularly rare here because people just don't buy luxury cars as much. So yeah, it just depends where you personally draw your line. And for me, I don't think I could. Don't get me wrong. If I could buy a brand new BMW or something, that's probably the maximum I'd do. I'd really enjoy it, but I know if I was at that stage where I could afford that, I would have to be putting a lot more into charity as well myself to feel okay about that. Right?
That's fair.
I don't think I could ever want a Jag because I would just feel horrendous. I really would. And it is an individual thing.
See, but you could get a used Jag for like $10K.
Yeah, that's true.
You can get a used Rolls Royce for under $30K.
That's also true. But I would also never probably spend more than maybe $5 to $10K on a car either. I just don't see the point.
Well, pounds or US dollars?
Probably both.
Because out here, I'm telling you,
same at the moment.
Out here, I'm telling you, you're going to need to look at $10K to $15K for a vehicle that you'll trust.
Trust, yeah, maybe. We'll
I'm just saying, for going out somewhere like that, I'm setting the stage for you. 10 to 15K, just be ready for that, and think closer to 20K, depending on what you're trying to do, how new.
I've been looking at the used car sales in Michigan. Plus, the good thing is that compared to here, car prices in the US are nothing. Like, honestly,
I agree,
it's so much cheaper.
But that's why I'm saying in dollars. And just knowing the used car market and what you're getting for less than 10K versus more,
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know. Be comfortable.
I'll be wary.
Set your heart for not being concerned if you start realizing the ones you would feel good about are in that 15 to 20 range. But
Okay.
I'm just setting the stage because you get yourself a under $10,000 car here, and unless you're really ready to do a lot of maintenance yourself and things like that, you are risking a bit. So.
Yeah, that's another thing I'm going to get used to is this whole lack of required maintenance in the US, that lack of standards. Here you
standards.
have to pass a yearly MOT, and it's
standards.
very stringent.
Yeah, ours aren't quite
and emissions tests and such.
Yeah, ours aren't. We have them. They're just not nearly as restrictive. And so some states don't, but most states have something that you have to at least check.
Do you guys have your car tax based on how many emissions your car exudes?
No, ours is based on how much you paid for the car, what its value is. In most states, every state does a little different, but most it's the value of the car at that time is what they'll start taxing you based on. Combination of that or what you paid for it, and over time it tends to diminish, and at some point becomes a standard after a certain amount of time. But that does change depend on state because each state kind of has its own rules for how they tax vehicles versus houses and things like that. So
there's quite a big thing here. So that like if you want to save money over the long term, you can spend a bit more money on a nice car that's either electric or a hybrid and has very low carbon emissions, and you don't get taxed. It's tax free because you're doing your carbon neutral or just very
we do rebates based on that. So when you buy a car of those things, you might get a tax rebate at the end of the year for buying into an electric car, but you still pay a separate way for taxes for your registration of the vehicle each year or two, or it depends on state.
Okay.
Because mine right now in Colorado is every 2 years you have to pay, or was it every year you have to register, every 2 years you have to get emissions on active regular owned vehicles. New cars you get a 5-year waiver on the emissions, and old cars at some point after I think 20 to 25 years you don't have to do emissions. It might be longer than that, or a car is older than a certain age, things like that. So there's lots of little rules, and it depends on state. There's also some states that have no emissions rules, and just things like that. And a lot of those are kind of farming states and things like that, where they have a lot of rural trucks and stuff like that, so they don't bother, and there's less population. So it just depends. And where you're at in Michigan will be interesting. I'd have to talk to actually Shady's house, who I'm going to today. I could probably ask him some of those things because Michigan is famous for being the heart of where American automotive started, and in doing so, there's a lot of you may run into less restrictions on car things because of that, since they've lobbied and done so many things for automotive things over the years. There, it'll be interesting to hear. I can't wait to kind of catch what your experiences are transitioning. We'll have to do a segment or something on the this was different, a Scotsman in the U.S. kind of transitional thing.
It will be. There's a lot that I think I already know about the US that from visiting and from getting features, but there's going to be a lot that I learn.
Oh, there's going to be so much.
But that's been my week in non-geek, sir. So
cool.
Please tell me about your week in geek.
All right, so
I'm a geek. Are you a geek? Geek Cred, level up.
And I don't have a ton to talk about in here, but I will bring up as probably I won't say the elephant in the room, but the white on the stream face of mine. In that I have been struggling, but I have been putting forth a lot of time and effort this last week on finishing up this costume. And the one I'm doing, I believe I've mentioned before, is Jack the Clown from Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios in Florida, or basically all the Universal parks, but a character that they developed specifically for their Halloween time frame. And so basically a scary clown. Is the overall? He's got a great history to him that if you go and look up some of the videos on YouTube and such, you can catch people talking about his backstory, and it's great how much backstory they put into the character, since it's their own creation. But in doing so, I'm doing it to match up with my friend Take a Chance Cosplay, or Lyric, as some people have seen her when she's online. She does Chance the Clown, which is one of the sidekicks for Jack, and has done that for some time. And so I figured, we were talking about various costumes coming up for Dragon Con. I wasn't really working on much, but I said I would give an effort to make Jack. So I spent the last week essentially sewing, and I've got the costume done, basically. I have to trim up and dirty it up some to make it look more rugged, but the actual form and putting it all together is finished. for the costume itself, the clown suit. Now I am working on styling the wig because he has a very distinct look when it comes to an orange wig. Hair that comes out to both sides and the back comes over the front and kind of hangs out into a kind of not quite pompadour look or anything like that, but just kind of messy, but hair coming all forward. And so I've got a wig downstairs that I put wire through to kind of hold the sides out to do that. I put some foam blocks under it to give it structure.
Be careful putting that on your head, yeah.
It'll be fine. It's just a hanger kind of thing that I cut, a wire hanger. Made space for, with some foam inserts around it to give it structure. And now and I've cut and shaped the foam some. I'm going to be layering and shaping the wig and cutting pieces off and reapplying glue and such to get it to fill out, because unfortunately a lot of wigs aren't as dense as real people's hair. And so getting that full depth and kind of shape that Jack has is going to take some manipulation of this wig. So I hope to work on that some more tonight. I'm letting it dry right now as I put some more paint and glue on the foam to hopefully let it dry so I can come back to it after the dinner tonight to give it some more fill out. Because I have to have everything done, dried, and ready to be packed Tuesday night because I fly out Wednesday morning to go to Dragon Con. And we'll be there.
Coming up.
Yep, real quick. Which thankfully I'm only doing the one costume. I had a slight desire to also do a quick hunk from Voltron, from the Voltron series that was redone on Netflix. One of the other costumes that Take a Chance will be doing is Allura, Princess Allura, and so it'd be fun to just have a matching costume for that as well. You know, most groups I ever do, I might get one costume to match with. This time we're going to have two, Jack the Clown, and we're doing our Jefferson and Hamilton as well. And so we'll have two together. It would be really cool if I was able to do a third, just because I find it more fun to costume with a group and with others in a recognizable costume like that. But this is one where I'll have at least those two, and I think everything else is just going to be me and whatever, running around finding people and having fun. So we'll see how that goes. So in doing this, trying to be a good cosplayer, as I am quickly running out of time, I decided that now that I've got the costume done, I'm working on the wig, the next thing I needed to at least touch on was the makeup. So through the direction of Take a Chance, because of all the things she's done with Chance over the years of her costuming, she's done the clown makeup stuff for some time and really got some beautiful, horrific kind of things. In fact, I should pull up a picture of hers that an example of some of her work she's done for this specific costume, try to match it. But I'll show both my references of what I'm trying to do for Jack, as well as the costume that she's got for Chance. So for everybody in the stream, as I pull this up, you'll be able to see what it is I'm trying to accomplish here. Let's see, this one. Nope. This one, yeah. There we go. So pictures of Jack, kind of some close-up looks of him and the costume itself. I need to do some of the blood work on the front, and I was going to do some of the same red paint that I used for the spots, but it's got a sparkle in it. So instead I'm going to try to grab some fake blood that I have in one of my kits and gussy up the front of it. But you can see his crazy hair and teeth and things like that. And there's a few different examples of how his character's changed over the years. So I'm kind of doing it based off his original character, the older one. And I need to chop up the base of it a little bit to give it some more distinct look. But this is the picture for people in reference that I'm really focusing on for the makeup work on his face to kind of cover.
Very creepy, dude.
And so that one I'm really looking forward to. And the teeth, I couldn't find those fake teeth, so I'm going to just muck up mine to make them look dirtier and things like that. So we'll see. As well as try to burn the hands out a little bit. I've got maybe some fake fingers to put on, but we'll see. Yeah, it's nice. I am truly embracing the kind of the look that a lot of people dislike, which is that of a true creepy clown.
If you just get some, I don't know what kind of meat it would be, maybe like some sausage or something, and wrap it around your fingers, that would also give it that effect. It looks very, raw meat.
Yeah, no, I've got some makeup I think I can pull off onto that'll work for the most part. We'll see. So I'll play with that and come up with something for it. But the other one, and then what Lyric has is this is Chance, and it's her rendition of Chance essentially. It's a character very based upon like Harlequin type thing. And one of the things that Lyric's done that's really slick is kind of burning out the eye makeup to give it texture, which is just cool. It gives it such a more horrific look.
That's very creepy, yep.
And so that's who I'm going to be paired with for while wearing these costumes. The fun part is this will be another one of those cases where the character itself should be a lot of fun to play, which is something I always love. And so this should be one that I can really kind of just play with the character. Jack is notorious for loves the spotlight and limelight and being in front of things. And so in doing so, he also makes terrible puns, which might be one of the most difficult things I do. And he uses a somewhat gravelly voice where he's just like, well, it's good to see everybody again here. Oh, look. He's almost based off like a Joker, essentially. They're very much a Joker and Harlequin kind of take. So I feel like I can play with some of that. But he's also a serial killer. So walking around, it'll be appropriate for me to scare people and try to be creepy around others. Just walking like, oh, what are you looking at here? And just, I don't know. So I'm hoping to have a lot of fun with the character. But for the first time, I decided before actually doing the costume to maybe try the makeup on and see if I could do the effects that I'm after. And so I've got one of the contacts in because he's got yellow eyes and they've got a bit of like black coming in around the edges of them. But then traditionally he's got the whole white side of the face with a bit of green both around the mouth and the top of the eye. And I didn't do it to shape so much as I wanted to play with the techniques of layering it over makeup on top of the white, or is it better I do one than the other, things like that. So I'm trying to figure out that aspect of it, as well as a quick smoking of the eyes to give that little bit of horrific look. And so I may go a step further because one of the things he has in it, I can just use my face and that'll be fine, but he's kind of got an accentuated chin with a bit of the cut in it. And his cheekbones come up pretty sharp. Basically the actual actor doing it has prosthetics added. Like the eyebrows tend to come up a bit more. So I'm playing with a technique right now downstairs to make my own prosthetics. And we'll see how that goes. And so that might be, like, it's not my primary feature. I've got everything else together. The wig is my primary. If I can get prosthetics as well, that's bonus. And so we'll see. But that's been one of my biggest things I've been doing. Other than that, and it sucks because right now I don't have anything going, I have continued to try to do things for 3D printing, just any little things. I most recently have made a few busts. I had originally, the first one I printed that came out really well was a nice Thanos bust that just looks phenomenal, printed out in some really nice shiny brass-looking or copper-looking filament, and took it in the work, and people were like, that is really neat, like it. And so I've been enjoying that, and so I've kept trying to keep something on the printer wherever I can, although today, right now, it's not going anything. I also printed both for a friend of ours, Beck, our author friend, VtWShowX, because she is so into things, and people have seen the makeup she's done before with me of steampunk. And she also, if anyone's seen her Etsy store, she makes a lot of little charms and things that are kind of octopus-themed and such like that, little squids and octopus and things like that. So while I was looking around on the 3D models and stuff on Yegi, I happened to come across one that I thought was really slick, and so I printed her it and then went back and adjusted it slightly to print myself a copy of it. And that is an articulated steampunk octopus. And what's cool about this thing...
Oh, wow, look at that.
...is that, so it's got the steampunk look, and I used kind of one of my older gold type filaments for it. But what was really cool is this is one that you print as a single piece. So it's a single print.
Really?
And so that's neat about it is designed in such a way that the joints are interlocked in the design, but don't touch. And so when you print it, it's ridiculously flexible. Like,
that's mad.
And that's one of the coolest things about it. I've seen some of these before, but this is the first one I've ever printed. And it's just like you can literally just like hang it on things. And it just... it's super cool. So I've been playing around with that. Now I'm trying to find other types of prints and designs that have some of these flexible elements to them, because I can just see so many potential things that you can do when you start printing gears and joints and stuff like that move and articulate already pre-assembled, because I didn't have to click it together or something like that or solder it or anything. It's just already built that way. And so to me, that's super neat.
That's an incredible design. I'm really impressed by that.
It's so fun. Because I've done a few things like fidget spinner type thing and stuff like that, or tolerance tests that allow you to spin, where you can see some of the potential for what you can build in 3D prints. So for that one, it's a neat one. It has a neat look to it, and as well as fun that I could gift it to a friend knowing that she'd like it. So that was a nice time. That's pretty much what I've been focused on this week. Like I said, nice thing coming out for the costuming, so look forward to it, is I've been trying to remember to document it. And if you can follow my Instagram for costuming, predictably ham, on my Instagram, you'll see some of the posts I've put up there for progress pictures of the costume. I've also been doing a time-lapse video on my GoPro of me sewing and creating and cutting and trying to do as much of it as I can. So once I'm all done with it and back from DragonCon, I'll probably try to put that all together into a video to show people what I'm doing. And just hopefully that'll come out well. We'll see. I have had mixed results for how well I do these time lapses, but when I did my Jefferson, people liked it.
Keeping the camera still is the main thing.
Which I have it on a tripod and it's just there and doing its thing, and so it's just how much I'm working and what I'm doing if the angles work. So we'll see, but hopefully I'll have a compilation video showing me building this costume from scratch. And so it's nice because this one is much more from scratch. The only other ones that have been this much have been my Thomas Jefferson, which is almost all from scratch, and I want to say my from Piney and Stocky, my garter belt have been the ones I've made the most of. This one is also because everything I'll be wearing is pretty much made. I bought the wig, bought the material, I'll have regular shoes, everything else is made. And I remembered to add pockets to my costume.
Very important. You appreciate that on the day, I imagine.
That it's one of those things that a lot of, you see the memes out there of ladies when they talk about, hey, look at my dress, and they're like, oh, that's so nice. And they go, oh, and it has pockets, and that's like the most exciting things. That is very true also of cosplayers. If you're not wearing traditional like pants that you would get, jeans or something like that, then you pretty much have to design in your own pockets because most patterns don't unless it's regular clothing. And costumers will forget. And I'm just like, no, that is probably one of the most key elements you can have. You need to at least be able to hold your ID, your money, and room key. So even if all you make for your costume is a little slip of things, and then bonus is your phone and any like cosplay cards or business cards that you carry, those are bonus. But if you can get a pocket or a couple pockets that allow that, you can survive almost any convention. Because one of the worst things is when you realize you have no pockets, and you have to figure out what to do with those essentials. Do I carry a bag, which I often do, or something like that? And so that was a big deal. All right, that's what I've got for Geek. Ken, how about you as we have a few minutes to at least start before we go into our break today?
8 minutes should be fine. So I've been continuing to play Minecrack. It's good fun to just chill out in front of the PlayStation and just do a little bit of Minecraft. I've started really enjoyably. So I've mentioned my reading challenge, and I'll get onto that in a moment. To try and do that, I've been listening to my audiobooks while playing Minecraft.
Nice.
So I like to just sit and I'll do some mining or whatever, because I like doing survival mode. So when I build something, I need to go and actually get the resources, right? So I've been trying to build like a wizard's tower, but me being me, all I have ever done is like I've gone through the to the Nether. I've built massive, enormous things, but they're never particularly creative. They're usually just large in scale. So they're usually like a 4x4, well, not 4x4, but they're usually just a symmetrical rectangle.
Yeah, just
That's
a big,
pretty much
massive room or something you've done. That makes sense. Gotcha.
That's all I do. So even right now, I was like, I want to do Mage's Tower, and it's going to be different this time, and it's going to have a portal to the Nether. I'll have my enchanting room, and it'll be connected by a minecart that goes underground to my main base, and it'll be neat. It'll be on a hill. And I was like, this is a cool idea. And I was like, oh, and I'll use a different stone type for this. So I got cobblestone, and then I smelted that into solid stone, and then I crafted that into normal-looking bricks. So it's a little bit different. Or whatever they're called, the brick version of solid stone, and it's a nice looking block. So I was like, this will be nice. And I'm like on the 4th floor in terms of, I'm just doing the outside structure right now. And I went down back to my normal base, looked up at the hill, and I was like, crap, it's a rectangle. What? I didn't. I did all this unique stuff, and it's still a bloody. I didn't even think about it. So I'm gonna have to just make it a rectangle that like gets smaller at the top and then has a big roof. I think is what I'm gonna do, something like that. And maybe
I love that even when you weren't trying, you somehow managed to still end up with a rectangle.
It's just an instinct, right? So I'm going to also get rid of some of the... I'm going to just knock out some of the blocks and replace them with the cobblestone with ivy once I find some in a dungeon somewhere. And that way I'll look a little bit more mage towery. But this was a massive construct, so I'll need to find quite a lot. But it's quite fun, and I'm enjoying that. The other thing I did is I made a little house on a lake, which I've never really done before. And instead of a roof, I used fences to make it look like kind of a see-through roof that looks almost like, I don't know, it's quite neat. And it's in a triangle shape, which I've never done before. And I'm proud of myself for managing to do something different. At least slightly. Also, I made my smelting room. It's underneath this hut. So you go down this like interesting stone ladderway down into the underground world where there's like just 20 furnaces in the wall. So it's a little bit different. And I'm glad I'm breaking out my comfort zone a little bit. So in terms of reading, I've done a fair bit of reading this week as well. I finished Haunting of Hill House. I mentioned this last week. I was near the end, I think. And it was. I rated it 1 star.
Ooh,
it was really bad. I really didn't enjoy it. So the thing is, I appreciate what it is. It's kind of like, okay, this is the controversial point here. Elvis, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Michael Jackson, don't like them. I don't enjoy listening to any of the above. I'm Queen. I don't like Queen either. I'm not trying to be controversial. I honestly am not. I just don't enjoy any of these bands or musicians personally. However, Elvis as well. However, I greatly respect what they did for music, and I'm not saying I'm not saying I wish they didn't exist or they didn't produce music. I'm glad they did what they did. It founded music and made it the way it is, and it's much the same way with Haunting of Hill House. By Shirley Jackson. It helped define the haunted house genre, and for that I very much appreciate what it is. But it's like a really ill-defined understanding of what that is. The one thing I did kind of well is that you're not sure by the end whether there was actually creepy stuff going on or whether it was all in their head.
Yeah, I remember you were mentioning that piece. Yeah,
that's kind of well done. But honestly, I just hated the characters. They were not fleshed out particularly well. They felt rather 2D. The main character was just a big old wimp, and I hated listening to the world through her eyes.
That would be annoying.
Oh, what do people think of me?
That would be annoying.
Constantly. She was really irritating.
The only thing I do have to say, and then that Tom followed up with what you were saying in the chat about music and things like that. Really, really, Ken, because... you were okay at first with a couple of bands, but then you kept making it worse for yourself. You brought up Queen, and like
so overplayed. Like it's okay. I don't hate them, right? They're okay, but for God's sakes, I've heard. I know the lyrics to every song, and I don't even like them that much. Why is this a thing? I just can't
amazing.
Stand. They're okay. They're all right at most. Like, even Led Zeppelin, I enjoy the guitar to Stairway to Heaven, but I don't like the singing, for example. The Eagles, they have, what's that one good song I like? I can't remember what it's called. The one, Hotel California?
Hotel California's classic.
Rolling Stones couldn't even tell you one song name, honestly. Just not bothered. So yeah, I'm not trying to be controversial. A lot of people think I am when I say this kind of thing, but... I'm honestly not just trying to be like, oh, look at me, I'm so unique with my music taste. It's just
you're not trying to be a hipster or something like that. That does challenge
me. Not trying
me,
to be. I guess I just am natural.
Well, I mean, this goes into similar discussions we've had about your taste in things like the originals or the prequels and the Star Wars series and stuff like that. You challenge me at times, Ken. You challenge me with your youthful view of the world.
All I said with Star Wars was that the original trilogy was obviously the best story-wise. But then the second trilogy was the best in terms of visuals. That's what I said. And they're enjoyable for their own merits for that reason. I'm not saying that they're both perfectly the same and exact. And in fact, they're barely comparable. But they're both
I agree with that. I agree that they're barely comparable. I disagree about they're both enjoyable.
Okay.
No, I had a whole massive discussion about Star Wars again last night with some guy. It was fun because of the age group of people I was hanging out with last night. They were mostly my age. So we were geeking out about our whole nostalgia factor. Of things that we experienced, stuff where it was very much a gotcha kind of moment for me, where you and I are having a moment.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
So as after Haunting of Hill House, I decided to. So I've said before, I've got this 24 books in a year reading challenge. That's what I set myself a goal as. Goodreads is currently telling me I'm 1 book behind schedule. I've got 14 out of 24 done this year.
Oh, nice.
So I've been trying to knock out the ones in my wish list that are fairly easy to read in terms of time, so that I can try and meet this challenge. Instead of, for example, I've got War and Peace in there, right? It's 69 hours, 60 hours or something. Like, I'm not gonna like to get that for my next
That's
book
tough.
because that I would never meet my challenge, right? So instead, I've got to kind of think of what are the shortest reads. So the next one I chose, just based on that, is let me try and I've not actually updated on my Goodreads yet. Oh, I have. There it is. The Girl with All the Gifts. Now, unlike Haunting of Hill House, which is 1 star, I've given The Girl with All the Gifts 5 stars. This is a book by M.R. Carey, and the voice actress was fantastic. She did a great job of all the voices. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Added a lot to it. I actually had her voice in my head going about my day when I was thinking about the book. Little things the characters would say were in my mind, and that's something you really want to get from a book, right? I like that. It added something to the book instead of taking something away. So it was really, really enjoyable. Girl with All the Gifts is basically. I thought it was I don't know why I thought this. It was because it was recommended to me. I was talking to somebody about feminist literature, and the topic then moved on. But the first book she said after this was Girl with All the Gifts, and I assumed after talking about feminism, and then a book called Girl with All the Gifts, I thought that was going to be like a play on words in regards to having all the gifts. I thought it was going to be sarcasm, and it was some girl who went through some horrific trauma or something, and it was going to be a feminist novel.
Okay.
But she said it's one of the best books she's read recently, and I should add it to my wish list. And so I did without even looking at what it was. So I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I really didn't. It's a zombie book. I didn't expect that at all. It was an entirely fresh take on the zombie genre. It's
really?
Nice to see that. Yeah, it was really refreshing. It was a completely different world. It was based in the UK, which is nice in itself.
Okay.
Based in England. And it was based 15, 20, 30 years after the breakout. So, humanity is pretty much on its knees at this point. The zombie hordes are taking over, and it's a fungal zombie virus instead of like a virus or magic or voodoo or whatever.
Okay, got it.
Which is a little bit different. So that was an interesting concept, and the progression of the zombie fungus throughout the novel is also very unique. A large part of the plot is dedicated to one of the main characters tracking the scientific progress, tracking our knowledge of the progress of the fungus and what it's doing and how it works. Because basically what it does is it's this fungus which takes over people when they are bitten. And that's it. You get bitten, you get in your bloodstream, minutes or hours later you turn into a zombie, just like every other zombie, everything everywhere, right?
Gotcha.
But it's not with scratches, and it's just any fluid, right? So if you get their blood, if you get their brain matter, or bitten by them with the saliva,
because it's fungal, any piece of it basically could attach onto you and get into you. Now is that? But it still has to get into your system, right? Not just touch you, or is it?
Yeah,
physically?
exactly.
Okay.
So people, hadn't had contact with the zombies, and it's mostly fine, but they try to bite you pretty quickly, so you got to keep them far apart.
Gotcha.
But there's a lot of unique things done with the zombies. They're not just like, oh no, they're zombies. They're used as like a bioweapon at some points in it, so people are like using them as a horde and like a cattle drive almost. It's really cool. There are different types of zombies, as it turns out.
Okay.
One of the main characters you find out at the very start of the book, this is not a spoiler, is a zombie. But she is the girl with all the gifts, as the title. She is seemingly brought in from the wild at a very young age, maybe like 3, 4, 5 years old, maybe up to 10, as a zombie, but she has some intelligence. And so what they're trying to test is how far can we take this? Can we teach them? Can they become intelligent? And it turns out that she's actually genius level. They bring in like 30 other kids, and most of them are just like all right. They're all above average, it turns out, which is interesting in itself. But it turns out this one girl is particularly intelligent, and that's why she's the main character, because she's actually kind of interesting as a 10-year-old.
Okay.
I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's really it would be spoiler territory any further on. But it's a fantastic book. The relationships in the book are great. They're not in your face. It's not based on romance. In fact, romance very much doesn't play a role in this, which is refreshing. There's interesting types of zombies, interesting world, and a fantastic story, and it doesn't end the way you think it will. It's really, really great. There's a second book out, as it turns out. I didn't know of this until yesterday. It's now on my wish list as well. But the book is called The Girl with All the Gifts, and it's by M.R. Carey. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads because I thoroughly enjoyed it. It really was great. I can't think of any way to improve upon it. It's got an average of 3.94 stars, which is pretty good for Goodreads. So it's basically an average of 4 stars. Its main genres are horror, fiction, science fiction. I wouldn't put it as horror just because zombies doesn't mean it's horror, right? It's not scary. I'd say it's fiction with some kind of sci-fi, maybe even fantasy in it. Okay, so that's another one I've read. I am now reading, again, back from something enjoyable. I'm trying to do something that's good for me. I'm trying to read Marx Philosophy in an Hour. One of the things I had on my wish list from trying to learn about philosophers that I don't necessarily agree with but want to learn from, Marx being one of them.
Okay.
I've read Why Marx Was Right, which was quite a long and rather tedious book. This one I'm hoping will kind of encapsulate some of the stuff that I may have zoned out in the last one. So Philosophy in an Hour. And because it was on my wish list and I was trying to sort by, least amount of time for a book, this obviously clocked up pretty quickly. So I'm reading that just now. I'll finish that the next day, no doubt. If you want to follow me on Goodreads, be my friend, that's absolutely welcome. Link in the chat. The last thing I want to mention, just before we go on a break, I have been looking for Android games, and I've been kind of struggling because I've honestly not played many Android games I've particularly enjoyed in the last few months that last a while. And I thought, and I've had the urge to go out and play Hearthstone because it's one of the most polished games out there you can get on Android. It's just a beautiful game. It's so fun to play. And I'm hoping that if I just play it less frequently, I won't get bogged down in how much I hate the ranked play system of these 3. You can only play these 3 decks and they cost 20 legendaries, and you can only do this if you spend thousands of pounds in the game because it's effectively a pay-to-win system. Because I used to play it for years. I played at least 1 or 2 games a day to try and keep up with the curve of free stuff. I was still by this time a year and a half ago, I was just screwed over by people who were spending money. I couldn't keep up even with all the free stuff.
No,
so that's when I gave up.
And that's why there's probably nothing on the phone that I'll play competitively or anything like that. I tend to keep it on anything I can play at my rate. In fact, I would love to find more phone-based games that require 0 internet connection to play. Things I could play on like a plane and stuff like that, because it annoys me how many I get that even though all the information's there for me to play, they like to do little updates because they're mobile games, right? They're trying to sell you at something beyond the original price. DLC or something, so they'll download ads every time they touch, or opportunities for you to spend your money to get a little further ahead in the game, things like that. I wish there were more solid titles on mobile that were truly buy once, play forever standalone games. And so that's always been a challenge for me with mobile.
Hey, when you find some, be sure to share. Same with the audience. We'd love to know. So yeah, we played Hearthstone, and when I went back in for the first time in a year and a half, it was like, hey, welcome back. Here's some free stuff. So they gave me 15 packs, which was really nice, of I think one of the more recent expansions. I then got the quests of the last few expansions each in a row. So every time I finish a quest, I unlock another bunch of quests from the new expansion, so I get more free stuff as we go. This is fun. I'm just playing mostly solo games or the solo adventures, playing a couple ranked games here and there, and tavern brawls, and I'm having a great time. This is really enjoyable. Plus, in the packs that I got, plus the free classic packs that I got through my quests and so on. Also, because we're in a new year, they recycled a lot of the cards into the wild format. When they do that, because they know people feel bad about losing a lot of their previous legendaries and stuff, they give you a bunch of dust to make your new cards based on what you gained before. So because I've missed a couple of expansions and I had a lot of stuff in the past 2 years, I got 3,800 or so dust. So I managed to make 2 legendaries, which was nice. So I made 2 new legendaries, and I've been very lucky, very, very lucky in the number I got from all these different packs. So in the past day, I have gotten, including the 2 that I made, I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 legendaries. So I got 5 legendaries across maybe 20 packs, which is crazy. That's a really good rate. So I'm going to quickly list them for anybody interested. I purchased these 2, Archmage, Antonidas, so basically whenever I make legendaries, I never do it with the more recent expansions because I know they're going to eventually disappear, right? Why buy a legendary that you can't always play? So I've been buying them for the classic decks first. So I got Archmage Antonidas, which is the mage legendary, which whenever you cast a spell, you get a fireball spell back. I also got High Inquisitor Whitemane, which is a normal neutral card, which means which lets you revive any minions that died this turn. So if you have a Death Rattle deck or something, that's really nice. The ones that I got in packs were crystalsmith kangor. Let me just zoom over to that. That's a 2-mana card that has Divine Shield and Lifesteal, and your healing is doubled with it, which is pretty nice. It's a paladin card, so that's pretty powerful. I got a highpriest amet, which is a priest card, priest legendary. When you summon a minion, set its health equal to this minion's, which is 7. So any new minions get 7 health. That's pretty neat, or less depending on if you lose some. I got Corrupt the Waters, which is a shaman card. It's a quest. Play 6 battle cry cards, and you get the Heart of Vernal. And I have no idea what that does. I got Akali the Rhino, which is a warrior legendary. It's a rush card, so it's like a charge, but you can only attack minions, not a boss. It costs 8 mana, has 5 health and 5 damage, and it has a special effect called Overkill, which means which I've now learned is a new effect I didn't know about. When you deal excess damage on your turn, you get a bonus. So if something has 1 health and you do 7 damage, that's 6 overkill.
Oh, okay.
So the overkill effect for this is draw a rush minion from your deck, give it +5/+5, which is pretty obscenely good. The thing is, it's quite a weak card, so you're kind of taking a risk, I think, by using it. I also got High Inquisitor Whitemane, which I mentioned before, and Undatakah, which is obviously a troll card. So it has a battle cry effect of gain the death rattle effects of 3 friendly minions that died this game. Now, one of my favorite decks that I've transferred over to, obviously, the new version with the latest year in the new expansions is my Death Rattle Priest card. So I've got my High Inquisitor Whitemane, which revives all friendly minions that died this turn, with the Undertaker, which gained death rattle effects of 3 friendly minions that died this game. And there's this crazy Drake that you get, which is, I think it has like 2 health and 2 attack. That has a death rattle effect of when it dies, it summons a 7/7 dragon. Ooh. So if I play a couple of those, they die. I drop Whitemane, she summons a couple more, right? I could have maybe up to 4 or 5 of these 7/7 dragons. I then played the Undertaker. If it takes 3 of these, spawn 3 dragons when you die, they're 7/7. And if I get to that stage, it's really hard to beat that deck, right? So, and I've played a couple ranked games today with that and that kind of deck, and I'm still trying to tune it because I'm kind of out of play. It's got a little bit too much draw just now, so I keep getting full hands. But it's really neat. I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun to get back into the game, and it's nice that right now maybe it's trying to match me with low ELO players because I haven't played in a long time. But my win rate right now is about 80-90%, which is pretty sweet.
Nice.
I went from rank 23 to 19 without losing a single game, which was nice. Until today when I lost one. And yeah, so that's been my week in Geek. Sorry, that took way longer than I expected it to.
No, it's all good. And it's funny you did it, at least inspire me to like take a look again, because I haven't played Hearthstone. God, I don't remember how long. And
it's the solo adventures, man. That's the thing, right? If you don't
it.
like the ranked stuff, go play the solo stuff. It's really fun.
Well, that's where I would maybe pick it up some more again. It's interesting because I just loaded it back on my phone, and it's got a cinematic at the beginning of it as I load it now, which, that's new.
I didn't get that.
I'll have to.
Also, you get a new pack if you load on PC and on your phone.
It's like, interesting. So, yeah, it's got a cinematic going, which is interesting. I'll have to check that out during the break here. And so with that, we will jump out for a moment so we can go take a break and be right back after that. I'm going to listen to, as we love our OC Remix songs, this one's going to be Kirby Canvas Curse, Sunrise Over the Silver City, a CC remix by JDaster64. So we'll be back in just about 3.5 minutes after listening to this song during the break as we refresh our glasses and take a bio as needed. But we will catch you right after this. You're listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com, and we'll be back right after this.
Send in your emails to ShowX at VtWProductions.com. listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. All right, yes, my silly computer, I don't know, something about the way that I bring in the NDI stream for Ken's feed from Skype likes to magically resize itself in the middle of the show on occasion. So all of a sudden the window gets smaller and then eventually jumps back to its normal size. It's weird, and I don't know why. And Copy, part of me wants to go down this whole trend of hating on the Switch, as I talk about, as you brought up, that there are some games that the handheld-only Switch Lite can't play. As I jokingly have gone in talking about how it is better, I think, to compare the Switch to gaming on a phone than it is to gaming on a console or PC or anything like that, because it is, unable to do things that the other consoles can do in a normal sense, like play full resolution games and such. And so, yeah, I do that. I'm talking about dead, cats and dead things now. And anyhow, so as we get into next, jumping in here to say that it's time to get into a little bit of
technology, news, and more today on the Geekoscope.
And while I always have articles in here and things, one of the things I did want to at least mention, so that we don't forget too late in time here, is that we just had this last week Gamescom going on, I believe in Sweden or somewhere like that. It's somewhere in the UK. Or not UK, I'm sorry, in Europe. Somewhere in Europe is having
Didn't even know.
Gamescom. Because I got to see a few announcements that came out of it this last week, and unfortunately everybody does video now, so nobody has just a good listing of all the things that were announced. But some of the big ones that came out of there, just for whether people have been following or not, I'll be kind of curious if you all saw something that I didn't. The Halo co-creators out there unveiled a new game called Disintegration. And so, of course, they say it feels and looks a lot like a Halo. But the idea is that it may likely come to PC. And so, looking forward to that one.
Cool.
One of the big ones that a lot of people have been following, if you're aware of it, is the game Everspace 2. It's coming out. I never played one. Didn't really know much about it, but apparently this one comes from Rockfish Games, and it's one where they're trying to change it up a little bit from the original and make it a little more free-form open world and less direct path. And so in doing that, they're trying to adjust some of the things, like some of the roguelike gameplay from the original, so that they can really focus on kind of making this more expansive game. They showed a few other peeks at Borderlands 3 over it, which, of course, I'm excited for the next Borderlands. It's one of those things I don't know if there's anything new that I need to see to know that I'm getting it. I don't know if other people are in that realm, because, of course, any of these announcements are to keep people hype for what's coming. But for me, it's kind of a, well, yeah. Also, they showed an expansion for Metro Exodus, which admittedly they say is going to be fairly little compared to some of the other expansions, although, well, bigger than the last DLC, but not the full game, and it's going to cost about $30 for that one. I can't say much. I know that Campo loved Exodus, what happened with the newer Metro. I still haven't gotten to it. I have it. It's on my list of to-dos. And I'll go into a little bit of other things I want to do with that. There's a new design of Alienware computer that's come out called with the Aurora. That's more of an oval shape. It actually reminded me when I first looked at it. Have you ever seen what are those fans that are out there that have no blades but are kind of oval shaped?
Oh yeah, they're cool, right?
Right, they're neat. So I say this, and I'm going to show this just shot so people can see it, that this case design that Alienware threw out there, to me, reminded me exactly of those fans. It doesn't have the center opening, of course, but the overall oval front shape look of it, to me, is kind of like, oh, it just needs to blow air at me instead of it sucking it in from the front, and it would totally be one of those fans. So I saw that and was just kind of entertained in general. Alienware, another more interesting, but it still challenges me because I don't know where these have a place, and please tell me if I'm wrong, is Alienware also announced their latest 55-inch OLED behemoth gaming monitor. And so
wow, this
is one where, it's not one of the official BFGs that you got from NVIDIA, because this is a FreeSync monitor, but it's a 55-inch OLED gaming display that can do 120 hertz and 4K. And they're saying that where I'm challenged with this one, it is FreeSync, so adaptive sync with pretty much anything should work. But it's going to cost $4,000 for a 55-inch OLED panel. And that bothers me.
Because I'm wondering what they're doing that's anything better or more decent than other OLED televisions. Because I have a 65-inch OLED screen from LG for my television, and it cost me basically just over $2,000, about half the price of what they're going to be listing this, quote, gaming one for. And FreeSync doesn't need active hardware, right? It's a software implementation. It does need the ability for a screen to sync, so there is a piece of it that's hardware related, but it shouldn't add any new cost or additional cost to the panel itself.
My immediate go-to is not, well, one, the word gaming will just instantly make it cost more, right? It's partly gimmicky, but there's also an element of, you can get a smart TV that's 55-inch for £500. You can also get the one that seems to have the same specs for double that price, and usually it's just to do with the quality of the material used in the making of the screen, right? So I assume there's just some kind of manufacturing hardware back-end thing that I don't understand that is part of it.
Well, my problem is
maybe I'm being too trusting.
Well, it's a monitor, right? And I didn't see anything on it that has any other innards that are smart or TV related. So if it's just display technology, I do not get it. Because my LG OLED right now at 65 is gorgeous. And it can do, for regular television type watching, easily the 120 hertz. The only thing it can't do right now is it doesn't have a connection that allows a faster connectivity in, so it can only sync to basically 60 hertz with any device I plug in via HDMI. I'm also curious because this one says it will have a DisplayPort connection, which is good. It's a 1.2, and it's going to have 3 HDMI 2.0 ports and 4 USBs and audio and things like that. But even then, I'm just curious where it just seems like it's out of place. I would expect this thing to cost at most about $2,500. And that's where I'm a little confused. Because I keep telling everybody how I'm looking forward to, and it doesn't have to be OLED. OLED is amazing because blacks and the HDR on it are phenomenal. If you've never watched something in HDR on an OLED, you're missing out. Because I still get almost blinded when I watch those scenes in the room's dark and stuff like that, and the light comes on the screen. I squint. That's how bright an image comes out of the screen, right?
I do that on non-OLED, so I can only imagine what it'd be like in OLED.
Well, because you got from an ink complete black to a light beaming at you that's kind of like, oh, yep, that is shining directly in my eyes. So it's just one of those experiences that, so yeah, the OLED's great. And the question I also have, if they've done anything to solve the issue with burn-in, because OLED has some of the features are similar to plasma TVs back in the day, and that if you keep an image on them too long, they can potentially burn in that image. It becomes fixed in the pixels that are how they emit. And so in doing so, you can get ghosting and things like that. So I'm very curious to see. They don't talk about any of those aspects. But what I'm hoping to see is the opposite direction go, where we'll get 55-inch, or for me, what I'm really looking forward to, I think I've told anyone who sees this first, just email me because it's going to go directly into my basket as soon as it's available. I need a 42-inch 4K active sync, so FreeSync or whatever, active sync display with HDMI, was it 2.1 or 2.2, the standard on it, that allows for... I guess I should double check the HDMI 2 because that might be, 2.1 is what I need for the bandwidth on it, and to actually get it to be able to do more than 60 hertz at 4K, because right now 2.0 only does 60 hertz, and I think DisplayPort 1.2 is in the same sense that it only does 60 hertz 4K, and so that's part of my also question of a monitor like this, even though it has the capability of 120 hertz, it's not going to be able to support it. And so that boggles my brain a little bit that they're going to be able to advertise this without it being able to do the things that it's really what you're looking for.
Yeah.
They might be able to push it a little bit with the DisplayPort, because I think it could do kind of a slightly faster, has enough bandwidth to go a little higher. But even then, they can't touch what I'm really looking for. So as soon as someone gets one of those that has DisplayPort 1.4 and HDMI 2.1, standards in it, I'm sold. Give me one of those. Oh, that'd be gorgeous. Bonus, I would really like HDR, but that's bonus. But give me that television, because my theory is this, I'm really hoping this holiday season you might experience better this time, Ken, as you come over for the Thanksgiving time frame and Black Friday sales, to be able to pick up, like, for me, you can get a 55-inch or heck, whatever television these days for 4K set for like $500-$600. So I should be able to
I want to buy a TV. I forgot about that.
Right? Well, and depending on the size you can get a proper US size, like 75-inch television or something. Proper size. But to be able to get a 42-inch, I feel like I should be able to get that display I want and have it gameable for like $500 and have it be cheaper than any monitor I would have to go pick up. And I know a lot of people who both content create, game, and do everything like that on televisions today, and it's wonderful. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Also, out of the Gamescom stuff, so one of the big ones that people might recognize, be interested, Kerbal Space Program 2.
Saw that. Yeah, I'm really excited for that.
And that's one that I think a lot of people, when they saw this, were kind of like, what? Considering, it's still just Kerbal, but it looks pretty, right? And so no real details were announced, so much as they showed a trailer from it. And in the trailer, there's some discussion as to whether or not what you're seeing is at all in-game, or is this just a fancy trailer? Now, at the same time, like, original Kerbal wasn't all that graphic intensive.
But they made so much money. That was such a big game.
It was a great game, right? It was a great game.
Still not played it, by the way. I need to play that.
I've played an hour or so of it and stuff. Is this one where Hando, I'm sure, can like slap us virtually for our not putting enough time into a game that I know he loved and other people have played the bejesus out of. And so showing the trailer a little bit here, it looks real pretty. The funny thing I'm thinking is that because in Kerbal, it's not like you're rendering massive units fighting each other and stuff like that. I think you could put this level of detail into the game itself and have it look this good. I think you actually could. Because this scene, and they said it was a rendered scene, right? I don't see why you couldn't do this real time. So it'll be really curious to see what Kerbal 2 provides. And that's one of those ones I don't think people were really had any clue it was coming. Yeah. And so once it got announced, everyone's just kind of like, what? Yeah.
Nobody really expected it because it's something. The Kerbal is such a standalone, fantastic. It's like hearing about Minecraft 2 almost for some reason, right? Right. It seems like it's kind of a standalone, enjoy, do what you do. It's very creative. Creative games you don't really expect to have a second version of, I guess, except for The Sims, which I wouldn't really call creative anyway. That's not fair. Kitten is incredibly creative in it, actually.
Well, no, The Sims is another one of those that it's a platform that you can be creative in. It could be creative in how you kill your Sims, but it is something you can.
Kitten almost never actually plays The Sims in The Sims. She just makes houses and bars and restaurants. Yep. And she does an amazing
I know a lot of people who use it to decorate. And because it's actually a surprisingly simple engine to do that.
I don't even want to call it decorating, though. It's like interior design, like architecture.
It goes beyond, because you're setting up the actual buildings themselves as well as the structures and everything. It's legit decent. You know what I've never seen or I haven't heard any stories of I'd love to hear? If anyone has ever built a Sims house in real life.
There must have, right?
Well, I would just think like somebody who loves it, because I know some people who love me some Sims, right? People who are just into it. If they've ever designed and built a house based on something they designed in The Sims. Sorry, that just kind of came out of nowhere in my mind, but thought if it did. So, so we'll see what happens with Kerbal 2 coming out. That one looks great. Another one, they showed more information. Again, it's not one that I need more because I'm already going to get it, but Cyberpunk 2077. I think the biggest announcement they had was that it's going to be coming to Stadia, and in doing so, they're showing that it streams very well on that Stadia concept, what Google's going to do with it. So that's probably a big announcement. Most people are saying that it wasn't something that Cyberpunk needed. It was more of an announcement for Stadia because they need to convince people to go that direction.
Yep.
That was
absolutely.
Yep. So that... What else caught my eye off of it? There, some other things for expansion on Monster Hunter World. That was all that was out of that one. So there are like lots of little bits. Oh, crud! That last one was actually what I cared about. One of the ones that was kind of random and not many people I think noted. My brother and I talked about this because it's a game or it's a minor series. It wasn't one that a lot of people followed, but it's one that I loved back in the day. Because it pushed technology in ways that nothing else was being done at the time. And it was something that it was neat. It was just neat. And so this is a game called Comanche. And is this one, Ken, that you are at all aware of or recognize the name of?
Not even in the slightest. Nope.
Okay. I thought that might be the case. And so as I show the trailer here, what was famous about Comanche back in the day, what makes it such a memory in my mind, is it was a helicopter simulator that came out, in the early 90s, something like that. And it was the opposite of a game like Apache Flight Simulator, which was one of those very realistic kind of simulators that you'd play, Apache Longbow, all these ones that were so good. And there were a couple other games along this line, closer to Comanche, like LHX, I think, LHX and something like that,
where they were kind of playing with the idea of futuristic helicopters that were designed but never really came to fruition. And there was a prototype of the Comanche that was built, but it was supposed to be this very hyper technologically based helicopter that came out. And the game that they did around it, that they used this design of this futuristic helicopter, was one where the technology they pushed was how they rendered scenes and such. And so what they did that was unique or different than other games at the time that were all doing basic pixel/polygonal building of worlds, like classic, they were the first company to push and really make it into a game engine, voxels. You remember, understand the concept of voxels, the volumetric pixels?
Oh, sure, yeah.
And such. And so it was neat because on lower end hardware, and it was all CPU based, this was like before really any hardware rendering was happening, it could build what were closer, in a way, to organic looking terrain than you could get with pixels or with regular polygons at the time, rendering polygons. Because polygons are doing all the different triangles, voxels were actually to the level of whatever precision the voxel could be. Think of it as a very high resolution, what would I say? A high resolution Minecraft, in a way. If that makes any sense. In that it's got a lot of little boxes that make up things. Let's see. And now I'm wondering if I can see I wonder if anyone has a video from the original. Original 92. 92. Here we go. So from Nova Logic was the original Comanche. And so I'm showing a little bit of the original. Wow, Comanche Maximum Overkill. I played the heck out of this game. Just because the way it rendered, and here it's showing it, like I said, it's not beautiful by today's standards, but it had the most realistic in the sense of organic looking terrain from back in like that 92 time frame, where most things are being rendered in very blocky styles. And I say blocky in the sense of like flat textured polygons and such. And so it was really neat for that. And so I'm excited to see what they'll do with this new version of Comanche coming out. I mean, it looks very arcadish, looks silly, but I think will be a lot of fun. Oh, man, remember when video games looked like this, kids?
I do.
Oh, and I remember when this was hotness. Like,
well, I was going to say, that looks amazing for what back then, right? 3D
92. Yeah, and that's the thing. It was like legitimate volumetric 3D. So good. So that's where that came from. That's the history. That's why, to me, it was meaningful. Anyhow, as I probably bore people where they're just like, what was that? Oh, I played the heck out of those games. So anyhow, that was Comanche. So that was one of the ones that kind of came out of left field for me that I was still very excited for. Trying to go through just some of the past videos of things that had also happened. And if there's any news that you guys saw that you thought was really unique or important to capture, by all means, chat us up, let us know. There are some other little things that have come out recently. Some of the new characters come out into Mortal Kombat 11, which was literally the Joker, Sindel, Terminator, and such for a pack coming out. We had some news. Let's see, what were some of the other ones? Some of the main ones, a lot of it was just video of things we already know exist, but they were showing little bits more. Just to keep excitement going in a way. But those are some. For me, the biggest things that I watched coming out of it, or at least made me excited, and I kept trying and don't think I won anything because I didn't see anything. What was it? NVIDIA was hosting a competition along with Gamescom where they were giving away a 2080 RTX Super for anybody who, like, on social media retweeted, liked, commented on any of their posts coming out, because they were focusing on showing a lot of different gameplay elements with RTX on, with the whole ray tracing engine, to see how that affects the visualizations. And I was pretty excited to see. It's one of those things because we've had the conversations lately about what does RTX allow. And part of it was because my buddy John Wasik had recently upgraded his main computer, which is, in his living room, actually running the television. I think that's where that one is. A 2070, one of the newer 2070 RTX boards. And talking about how much it's going to improve things and how he's now playing with some of the ray trace mods that are out there, specifically for Minecraft. And we talked about a little bit, when you see Minecraft in ray tracing, it looks like the most modern game that's been made. It doesn't look like some old blocky game from over a decade ago type thing that's been out. This thing looks so fresh. And so that got me into looking at how other games are affected by RTX. And so they showed some of the ones, like they showed the new Watch Dogs, which they are doing a lot of reflections and things like that in it. What other things did they come up to with on it? For me, I started watching the new Call of Duty that's coming out, where I think there's an open beta in the middle of next month for console and then next week PCs. How RTX is adding that. That'll be an interesting one because they're not doing reflections, I don't think, which makes sense because then you could see advantages for players that have ray tracing versus not, looking through a window or something like that to watch down a hallway. And so it'd be very curious to see if they implemented the full RTX capability in that one. What are some others? But one of the things they did announce at it was the official release of a ray trace update for Minecraft, at least the Windows 10 version. And so that's something that, as I was talking to John about what he's been doing and modeling out his sort of Dragon's World in Minecraft, how awesome that's going to look with full ray trace capability in it. And so for more and more, I have it in my mind that I do want an updated card. Like, I do. My 1080's killing it. It's wonderful. It plays everything wonderfully. I was playing Crysis 3 the other day in full 4K on my on my big monitor just to see, I haven't tried a Crysis in 4K. And it played it well.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, Crysis was so ahead of its time as it was. Is this Crysis 1, yeah?
No, 3. I was doing Crysis 3.
Oh, sorry. Crysis
I do need to go to 1.
Freaking fantastic. Well, 1 was good as well. They're all beautiful.
They're all great, and they use great technology. There's still benchmarks for how you can beat up a machine. Mm-hmm. And I can play it at like 60 frames per second on 4K as long as I don't turn up the anti-aliasing 100%. Things like that. I found that when I turned those up a little bit more, it started chugging. Like hard. So I had to do a little bit of tweaking to still run it basically in highest graphics for everything else. But that was playing wonderfully and stuff like that. But I'm just thinking if I had a 2080 Super, I could probably turn all of that up. But I do really, God, I want to try out any of the RTX stuff. I really want to see that. Anyhow, so they showed some of that, and that was stuff that I found exciting just in general, looking at some of the stuff that was put out there. There might have been other news, but those are the main things that I remember just off the top of my head since I didn't I was so busy crafting stuff I didn't spend enough time really jotting down the notes of what I was seeing. All right, but with that, Ken, would you like to jump on an article for us?
Sure thing. I've got several. So first of all, since I've been talking about Minecraft, I wanted to continue on that theme. Minecraft's latest Java edition snapshot adds bees. Potential Minecraft apiarists can begin keeping their own bees as part of Minecraft Java Edition 1.15 Snapshot 19W34 Alpha. Bees in Minecraft behave much like bees in real life. They go about their business peacefully, making honey, buzzing, and enjoying life to the fullest. Also, like real-life bees, Minecraft's newest mobs will leave you alone if you leave them alone. However, just like an action movie protagonist or real-world bees, if you push them too far, they will rain down upon you a world of pain. Angered Minecraft bees' eyes turn red, the surest sign of anger, and multiple angry bees swarm you and fill your cart with harmful poisons if provoked. Unlike normal bees, Minecraft bees are gigantic, measuring 0.6 blocks as adults and 0.3 as baby bees.
Oh,
I
wow.
love that. It's cute. Regardless of maturity or aggression levels, Minecraft's new bee mobs are some of the cutest mobs to come along since the ocelots, which are the cats in the game. They live in nests found in flower forests, sunflower forest, and plains biomes, and produce honey. The honey can be collected either as honeycomb or in jars as a honey bottle. And you can farm bees, too, without any safety equipment. Not recommended in real life. This is from IGN, by the way. Thank you very much to them. So it's quite interesting because Fortnite, obviously, past 2 years, it's one of the most popular games to exist. In the past month, Minecraft has surged past it again. Minecraft has become very popular again in the last few months. And I think news such as the new RTX stuff that's coming into the vanilla Minecraft and the fact that they're still releasing new updates has brought people back. And the fact that the base game is still fantastic, It's still so much fun, even though it's not changed drastically over the years. And it doesn't really need to. So if you are looking for a new game to play or an old game to play, maybe checking out Minecraft is a way to go.
Nice. Yeah, it's one of those games that it's funny because for a minute when John talked to me about his whole project of trying to build his world in Minecraft, I had to ask him, I was like, why Minecraft? But it's just such an accessible and easy thing to do and allows a lot of creativity and
Yep.
in a way because it is limited minorly to the type of what I want to say, the interface that it does have and the ability to do those things, it focuses you on what it is you're trying to create. That you're not going to do a ton of other things and get it too fancy in a way, right? And so it's actually kind of impressive. I remember playing with my nephews. They blew my mind when I got to see how they understood the mechanics and like the electronic aspects or the redstone and all the stuff in it.
It's mad, right? The amount of stuff you can do is crazy.
And they would build some neat things in it. And so I do respect it for what it is. And part of me wanted to jump back in and kind of play with it some more, especially with the RTX mod, as well as I was thinking if they can do the RTX mod with the VR mod, or being able to play it in VR, the VR version of Minecraft, that could be an experience. Because then I could put it in my Oculus and just really see some neat environments. So, yeah, no, I think that's really slick.
Absolutely. Okay, so that was that article. Do you have something else you want to share? Or should I continue on?
I got plenty of things myself as well. To change pace a little bit and not to jump on anything to what normally gets me going and controversial and things like that. So nothing FCC yet. Article about 3D printing that I found that I was just like, what? And really makes me want to know more. But this one comes from graphicdisplayworld.com, and it's 3D printing. It's all about color. And they actually put a U in the color. Okay. It says, with industrial...
Well, that's the right way to spell it, after all.
Nah, we got rid of you. With industrial mass production touted as the next big thing, accurate color simulation achieved using, in this case, it's a, Mimaki 3D UJ-553 will be the key to its success. There's been a lot of buzz about 3D printing in a lot of the recent years, while the 3D printing market continues to expand globally. There is a strong sense in the industry that mass production will be the next big thing. Indeed, additive manufacturing is quickly moving from prototyping into full production, with enhancements in workflow, standardization, and automation under the way. However, at Mimaki, they have reasons to expect another scenario to play out in parallel, with the, leitmotif being, what color you see is what color you get. In fact, they believe that color will be the key to growth of additive manufacturing across a number of areas in 2019. So, the big deal of what they're doing is they created a printer. Now, this is a professional level printer, but it's something I'm very curious to know more about. That is the first ever polymer 3D printing system that enables more than 10 million different full colors. It's based on a UV curable inkjet technology. It builds objects by jetting successive layers of ink that are hardened by LED or LED UV lights at each pass. So in a weird way, it's an additive process, but almost doing it like a normal resin printer, but in reverse. And it's one of those things that's just like, what? And so they say that because it's hardening essentially color, almost like a resin, but an inkjet printed one. So they can print like an inkjet any color, you would think, right? Like you would on a piece of paper. And then and I'm assuming they have to do it at very low level, thin layers of it. So they print a layer and then bring the light over it, harden it, and then print the next layer and print it and keep building it up that way. One of their concerns in building this that they're really trying to support is that of ICC color profiles. And in doing that, for anyone who does manufacturing, photography, things like that, but having anything that is accurate for color is a big part of what they're trying to make this happen. So not only can they build and print in full color, they want to do it in such a way that it matches the exact color you expect to get when you print anything on their device. Now, I say this, and I do not know what it's actually capable of, what it costs, any of that. They don't have that information on here. It's just talking about this company that has it. And as I share some of the visualization of the screen, just so you can see some of the pictures, when they talk full color, they're talking full color. And to details that you cannot get through any means in 3D printing today. Because even what I'm going to get, which is a CMYK that can do about 50,000 colors, eventually if they ever ship it, it has this huge waste tower that's built along with it, where when it prints next to itself, it has to print an area of a tower that it is changing colors as it's going through, as it's mixing and getting to the next pure color. And so you waste just as much material as you're printing, if not more. This one, you're printing just what you need layer by layer. And so they're showing detailed prints and detailed color like nothing I've seen before.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It looks like a manufactured toy.
Now, it really does look phenomenal. And the resolutions look amazing on it too, considering it's doing it with an inkjet, and just like the details, some of the railing and stuff on this ship they're showing, blow my mind. And I'm wondering if you do have to do anything with how supports have to work, things like that, or to what level it needs. I did look a little further into it, and it does talk about, because I tried to find out pricing, and it's like, nope, you can become a distributor or such. So my guess is any of these commercial level ones start, if you're lucky, in the range of like 50,000. More realistically, some in the range of 250,000 up to $1 million for some of this new emerging tech. And
it's only because it's new, so it costs a lot to make, right? It's not as if they've got these giant factories that can spit them out for pennies. It's also because the selling the ability to make what you want is a dangerous thing, right? That's a technology you want to kind of control, because you will eventually sell it out of your own hands in some respects.
Well, to a degree. I mean, part of it also looks like the technology they're using is these massive printers. 'Cause same thing where like my 3D printers can sit on my desktop, essentially. They're the size of a large photo printer scanner like combination thing for a 3D printer. These ones, and this one can print 300 millimeter by 500 by 500, which is a pretty decent build platform. Or I think it's 300 by 300 by 500, one of the two. Oh no, it's 500, 500, 300. So that's a pretty big build volume. But part of it is that I think the printer itself is kind of like I've seen in some of the other professional manufacturer ones, where it is the size of bigger than a copy machine, like more like like two refrigerators next to each other type thing. It's kind of the size of some of these commercial level machines, sometimes even bigger, because whatever it's doing to have to support that inkjet and however much, because it's one thing, right? We talk about prices of inkjets and how much ink costs and the amount of milliliters you get in an average printer. To print something 3D, you need that physical volume, right, of whatever you're printing. And so you need that much of the various inks to do it. And so who knows? And it's specialized ink, things like that. I'm sure there's a lot to it for the cost. I'm just excited that this is a new way of doing additive manufacturing of 3D printing that I cannot wait to see it hit a more everyday thing, or for someone else to come up with their own ways to do it, because even if it's at a more simple way to make it a desktop, because you get this down to a $5,000 printer or something, and now you have people being able to buy it for their own businesses versus leasing them and things like that. You get it down to under $2,000, and then you get extreme hobbyists starting to get it. You get it under $1,000, and you start getting people that really do it. I will tell you, yes, if I got this something, I would probably name it a copy machine. That would be hilarious, Hando. But yeah, that was a piece I wanted to share, because just when I saw something, it is what I saw as something actually new in 3D printing, and that excited me. All right, Ken, back for you.
All righty. So this is a game I hadn't heard of before, but since I've been really, I looked into the Pathfinder D&D Society in East Lansing, where I'll be staying. And there used to be a university-based one, but it seems to have died off. I'll have to look around a bit more.
Oh, but if you're at a college, with the resurgence of D&D and tabletop gaming and stuff, I am sure you will find things.
Right, it must be somewhere. So yeah, I'll have a look around and see. So Solasta, Crown of the Magister, is the best D&D video game I've ever seen, and it's not even a D&D game, says IGN. This is an opinion piece by John Ryan. I unabashedly love D&D. When Baldur's 3 was announced earlier this year, I squealed like a child. It's why, when I got to see an hour-long demo of Solasta, Crown of the Magister at Gamescom 2019, I was blown away by how well it replicates some of my favorite tabletop experiences. Based on the open gaming license SRD for D&D 5th edition, the publicly available rules set that lets designers build new experiences for the D&D 5e engine, and gamers to play D&D for free, Solasta is a classic party-focused RPG with turn-based tactical combat similar to what you'd find in something like XCOM or Wasteland 3. What's unique is how it integrates the concepts and mechanics of a tabletop game into the digital realm, and in some cases the clever ways in which it has to tweak those dice rolling norms to fit into pixels. So I was wanting to ask you, sir, what kind of stuff have you, what kind of D&D type video games have you played in the past, and have you enjoyed them?
Interesting. So, I mean, I go way back into, I've talked about this with others somewhat recently, but the old games like Bard's Tale, Hillsfar, Pool of Radiance, to Baldur's Gate 2, basically the really old-fashioned top-down strategic type games are what I think of whenever I think of actual D&D playing games. And they were great, especially at the times they came out, when you could do traditional dungeon crawling and have it feel appropriate. Because beyond that,
I never played Baldur's. Something I should really look into a bit more.
What? Which one?
Baldur's Gate. You said there's a new one coming out.
Well, they've done
them quite old.
They're old, but they've got remasters, and so you can check out. I think both on Steam and on GOG, and probably other locations that you can get the Baldur's Gate games. Let's see.
I'll check it. I already own it first.
Right?
No, I don't. I don't have it.
So Baldur's Gate. Oh, I just had it. Darn it. Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 is, I think, the next one coming. But the original, they have the original and second one enhanced editions for $20 US each. And it looks like, a Complete Saga one for a bit more. But Baldur's Gate 3, which is the one that's been announced and we're waiting on. Yes, that one we don't have any details yet, although it should be like release date or anything. There's just a trailer for it. But the Baldur's Gate games are notorious for being accurate and like almost hardcore in the way that you would play them. But it's also nice because they're in worlds that a lot of people recognize from various stories. And so I remember specifically there's a famous scene in the original Baldur's Gate, I think, that if you've read some of the books along the lines, you run into some characters that you'd recognize from those books.
That's pretty cool.
And that's actually pretty slick. There's some famous ones in there. And so that's one that's really neat, and I've enjoyed. Oh, Neverwinter Nights. Thank you, 10 and 15. That one is, like, really good.
So that's the one that I have played. I played the crap out of Neverwinter Nights 2,
Yeah.
I think. I can't remember which one.
That was a solid one. And that one I thought had good multiplayer in it as well, where you could actually play with people to play through it.
Never tried it.
Admittedly, the other one that I still think is really great, and it's just they stuck it in a world that makes it crap, is DDO Online, DDO, Dungeons & Dragons Online. It is such a good experience for Dungeons & Dragons with such crafted content. The problem is it's an MMO. If they had released it as a Neverwinter Nights, if they had released it as a standalone multiplayer game that you could log in and run a campaign with multiple friends, it would have been brilliant. Because the challenge with it, because it's an MMO and you can go back and rerun content, it means people grind and they get all the gear and they do all of those tropes that are just bad about MMOs, where it has enough story and it has enough other things in it that you can really play it as D&D. And that's the thing. When you're saying that, 1050, when you're saying that the group didn't hold together, that's the problem with it being an MMO. Where if you could have set it up, and I still would do this today with people if they're interested, because I think you can play a good section of DDO for free. The challenge is they also like throw all the pay content in your face constantly. Like there's doors that shine that are locked that you can't go into unless you buy the content for it.
That is okay. I would never play that.
Well, and that's why it's annoying, right? Because the gameplay mechanics and when you do the main quests are great, and the stuff that they had that was voiced by Gygax and stuff and like original creators of D&D are just so well made, and the stories are so good. But because they felt like they had to trope to the MMO side, they had to kind of like water down some aspects of it. And because I played it for a bit of time with friends of mine, and we played it as a standalone kind of multiplayer game, and it was beautiful. It was one of the best things. It was playing D&D with friends and having the computer be the DM. And that was what was so brilliant about it, right? Because
that you've really encapsulated the whole purpose of D&D type video games, right? That's the whole fun. But it should also be able to turn it around and be like, you can design your own maps and world and be the storyteller if you so please too.
And that's where Neverwinter Nights was so good, because we ran campaigns in Game Fest, and this is one of the things I don't have the creativity to do it, but some of my friends like Kit and Jason, these guys did, where they built an entire full-on like campaign, and we just as Game Fest ran into it as groups of like 6 to 8 of us, and they were actively DMing it. Where they were just using the engine, they weren't having to say much, but what they had is a bunch of pre-built things that they could drop into the engine whenever they wanted. And so they could drop mobs in because we were doing too well, or they could drop loot or things into it because we're such in worlds they had created. It was such a good blend of what technology can do for you when you want to have these experiences. It's why like I like what they've done with D&D and how it's repopularized and people are still playing it board game-like. But I feel like you could do both, right? You could have such a good digital experience where having someone who's running as the DM and they just have this beautiful console that allows them to help control the experience. dropping in modules, doing things like that randomly, but they're still doing it in the sense of this video game. So the characters are playing it more like a video game and role-playing it. So could be so epic. Give me that engine. And so it's close, right? And I would say that from my experiences, Neverwinter Nights 2 probably had the best iteration of that, or the Neverwinter series. And yes, when you're saying about the GM narration they had in some of the dungeons, in DDO was so good. It's amazing. And I had moments that were straight up some of the best D&D moments I'd ever had playing DDO, especially when it was brand new, before it became just MMO grind. And I realized playing it with friends of mine who loved MMOs is what hurt it for me, because they couldn't wait. They had to get the fix. And because we were so enjoying it, I'd come back and there were multiple levels above me. Or, and this is one of the worst things in the world to me, they had run content, so when we went through it, they'd run through and say, oh, there's a trap there, don't go that way, or everyone search here. Oh, there's a secret door there.
Oh my god, what's the purpose?
Well, and that's the problem, right? At that point, it's no longer the excitement, the fun, the neatness. It's one of the things I've always argued about any MMO. When you can go onto a YouTube video and watch exactly how to play through a boss match or something like that, why are you playing the game? Who cares at that point? There's some levels that I get that, okay, whatever, but the being crafty enough in a game developer to make it so that the experience of learning how to get through an encounter is part of the fun, that's brilliant. Groups that can do that, brilliant. And WoW had that, right? When you first ran into a thing, before the classic memes of, don't stand in the fire, when it was like you didn't know that was a thing, and the whole group went in and said, all right, what's going to happen? And then you just get crushed and wiped, and you're like, whoa. So you have to stop and think and discuss and go, what are we going to do? Come back and try it again, and you're going like, dang, right? That was so brilliant about those things. And so
I was actually reading an article today I shared it on the ShowX Facebook about Cthulhu, and that was the big problem. That was before data mining, before it was like you could Google it, check Thoughtbot before you could check anything else. People tried Cthulhu and were like, why is this not work? Why do we keep wiping for months, right? And that was a thing. I just love that. That's the way gaming should be, right?
I agree. It's something that, and I harken back to wanting those things. For me, one of the best things about multiplayer co-op is all experiencing something WoW and new together. And it's not just grinding. It's not, and I want the experience to be fresh. One of the things that DDO could still do, in my opinion, today, is they could still re-release it as a standalone thing. Let me buy the game for $50 and buy expansions on it like you would modules for any D&D game, $5, and we get this new module. If they made it like a Neverwinter Nights where you played together, and this is the big thing for me, if when it came to dungeon aspects, they created the overall layout of a dungeon for the most part, but added the ability to randomize pieces. Where traps are, loot are, certain kind of characters are, and things like that, let that randomize. Because then you could have it where even if somebody was aware of what might happen, it might not be the exact same experience this time. And that would be exciting. Because there was nothing cooler than saying, dude, my character has high, awareness in general, the high, oh crud, I forget which influences that, if it's intelligence,
observation,
wisdom, or whichever. But essentially what affects that of your natural ability to be aware of things. And in doing so, because the engine was so good in DDO, it is so good, it would give you a whisper message to your character saying you notice a draft in the room. That characters who didn't have a high enough passive perception wouldn't get.
That's cool.
And if you were smart and playing that character, you would say, hey everybody, I feel a draft. Everybody search. There may be something hidden here. And then
That's really cool.
And they did such good things where the traps would be invisible, or the secret doors and stuff would be invisible until somebody searched it and saw it. And then it would become visible. And I was like, this is great storytelling in an engine. This is allowing you to present things that a DM can do in real life. Right? A DM can create the world, and then when you find it, they put it there. This. And so there are things in DDO that are so well made, and they had the wrong model. Wrong flipping model for what was probably one of the best built design games out there. And still, I think that had potential. It would have been better, too, if it wasn't in the world of Oberon, but was actually in like Icewind Dale or any of these worlds we know, the Forgotten Realms type things, any of those, then it would have been better. But still, it's like, come on. Anyhow, I am running us over time as I am starting to like geek out of what could have been and what I would have loved. But as you say that about, Solasta, Crown of the Magistrate, or Magistrate, It does look interesting, and it's fun, and I continue to want to see more good, in-depth games like that. It sucks because I want something to grab me. I am missing, personally, the game that makes me stop playing other games for a minute. And I'm too quick to touch and taste in little bits, and I enjoy them somewhat, but I want something to suck me in. You know, I know people that get into things like the Final Fantasy games or into the Tales games and all these like in-depth RPGs and stuff. I just need one to grab me in such a way that I actually care about the story and the characters and stuff like that again.
I'm hoping, not quite so much for the story and characters, but I'm hoping that Warcraft 3 has an effect of reviving the modding community to an extreme. I'm hoping that we all want to start making custom maps to just like the nth level and, you know, the next idea of a game type, like how Dota was originally
Dota and some of the original
3,
tower defense and games and stuff like that.
Well, I would
it's something
love
that we could probably experience some of that today with StarCraft 2 because it's free now on Battle.net. And there's a ton of custom maps, which are essentially that mod world. And I didn't realize it until my cousin started playing it, and I looked and I was like, is that StarCraft? I was like, oh yeah. I was like, just looking like, really? And he's like, dude, we're playing all of these custom maps, and there's amazing game types in there. And so if that's any hint to or something like that, that's something I think we could do today and get ready for something like a Warcraft 3. Because if Warcraft 3 was awesome, and seeing it remastered in full revision would be a lot of fun. All right, everybody.
Yeah, totally.
It is time for us to end it. Was there any other immediate news we needed to get off our chest before we call it a week?
Nothing crazy. We
All
can
right.
get back to it next week.
Then I'll let you end us out, Ken. Just a reminder to everybody that next week I will be at DragonCon. And so whether or not we do the next episode live, you know, episode 404, next week or the following, we'll see. It kind of up to you or depending on what you want to do, Ken. Could always do a game night or something else like that. I will likely take my laptop. But because it's DragonCon, I have no concept of what my schedule will be. So, throwing that out there.
Fair enough. We will see.
All right. So, with that, Ken, lead us out.
You have listened to ShowX live on VtWShowX.com, on Twitch.tv, on YouTube, or possibly in podcast format elsewhere too. Thank you very much for tuning in. You can support us in a variety of places around the web, and we appreciate each and every one. You can follow us on Twitter.com/VtWShowX, Twitter.com/.dead, and Twitter.com/GoHex. For the show, for Mr. Wayne and for myself. You can send us an emails to showx@VtWShowX.com. You can check us on Facebook by searching for ShowX there, no problem, easy peasy. Support us on Patreon for a minimum of $1 per month. And that's patreon.com/ShowX. And you can check out our subreddit as ShowX. The subreddit is ShowX. And check us out there. Thank you very much for listening to us today, everybody. And thank you very much for hosting the show today, sir, as well. Much appreciated.
Absolutely. Always a good time to see you, Ken. Always a good time to talk to all of you out there. We much enjoy it. And remember, feel free to always email into the show so we can hear about the lovely things you've been doing in your geek lives. We like to share and know what everybody's been up to, not just ourselves. And especially as whenever we get these gaming news and stuff like that, I'd love to hear what stuff you guys catch that I might have missed. Or any events you find that are geeky and around the world. Please let us know ahead of time. There's a lot of things I would love for us to, as a show, be able to endorse or follow or do something like that we maybe forget or are not as aware of as we could be. So feel free to share that with us so that we can announce it for everyone, make these communal things. All right, with that, thank you guys, and we will catch you again, hopefully next week. And we will catch you. Actually, after this real quick, feel free to jump into the Discord with us. I'll leave shortly. I don't know if I'll be getting much, but we will be there at least for a minute. So catch us in the Discord, and we'll see you guys later. Bye!
Goodbye. See you in the next zombie. Good night. I forgot.